Let's talk about it. If this is your first time tuning in here on this channel, we talk about film, fashion, and photography. And today we're looking at the 70-200 f2.8 RF lens. And man, I'm excited to talk about this one. You know, I am a huge fan of the Canon 85mm portrait lens. I've used that lens many times. And I did a video, I don't know, a month or so back saying that I was going to review the 70-200 because I had just got it. But I'm a huge fan of 85. The 70-200 pretty much is a souped up version of that. Obviously, it includes the 85mm because it is a zoom lens. But this one did not disappoint. When you think about the predecessor of this lens, the EF version, that lens is huge, right? I love the fact that this is a more compact size. Not only do I not have any reservations about throwing it in a camera bag and it not being so heavy, the previous version, definitely. I remember like having that lens or using that lens. I didn't own it at any point. I rented it, but I remember having a smaller camera bag, really just getting started and wanting to use, you know, a pro lens, and that thing took up a lot of space in your camera bag. And one of the things about that is that anytime that you buy gear or anytime that you're looking for something to improve your filmmaking, photography process, your creativity, you don't want something that's cumbersome, that's something that slows you down. And that lens is great. You know, the previous version did exactly what it was supposed to do for a lot of people. But I think that, you know, over time it did take its toll, and people thought twice about, you know, maybe going to 85 or maybe going to a prime lens, because that lens was definitely heavy. And for me, I just love this lens for the most part. The little times that I've been able to use it so far, I've been able to use it for 2 family shoots, and I also covered a conference a few weekends ago, and yeah, it was great. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is just overall sharpness, how it feels. This review is not going to be overly techie. That's not me. That's not who I am. So I'm going to stick to the things that I know. But first thing I want to talk about is just autofocus. Now, I use an EOS R, a smaller body, or not so newer body, right? I've done a review on the EOS R, and I love that camera as well for photography. But when I use that lens for the conference, that lens, I mean, it hit not every time, but this lens combo with that camera, and I can only imagine, you know, a camera like an R5 or R6, any camera that has, you know, the most recent updated, you know, autofocus, that this combo is just going to, you know, just pretty much blow you away. I mean, I would recommend this lens to anybody who's doing weddings, anybody who's doing filmmaking. I know that I'm going to be shooting a documentary this month for some time, and I know that this will be included in that documentary in terms of getting certain shots, trying to find a way to include this into that particular documentary for sure, because this lens, yeah, it's pretty solid. Makes my life easier. I don't have to be so close to my subject. I can zoom in. Obviously 70-200 is a pretty good distance. Just an overall great lens so far. Now, before I get to some of the things that I don't necessarily like about the lens, and it's really not that I don't like, it's different from the previous version. But before I do that, I want to talk about the ring. One of the rings on the back, you can pretty much customize it to be programmed to any, you know, setting that you want. I have it programmed to ISO because my EOS R does not have a dedicated ring button where you can spin, which is annoying. I don't want to always have to look at my screen or pull my eye away from the EVF when I'm looking down sight at a subject or trying to get a photo. I can easily just slide my hand back and grab and spin the ring that's on the back of the lens, and it works every time, right? I got a link to ISO, as I said. You can have a link to shutter speed, autofocus, white balance, you name it, does not matter. So having that attached to the lens, having that, you see it on pretty much all the RF lenses. I like it. Now, I've heard people say that they don't. I don't mind it. I enjoy having it there because it definitely, again, makes my life easier. I don't have to add an adapter that has that ring, which I have one for my non-RF lenses that don't have the ring for you to change the setting. But I really enjoy that. I'm glad they included it for this one. Obviously, it has the bells and whistles that you would think of, the image stabilization, the 1, 2, 3. I always leave it on stabilization 1 because that's the strongest stabilization. 2 and 3, you kind of scale back on how much stabilization that you want. I always leave it on 1 in combination with any of the internal stabilization that my camera has. So other than that, the last things that I want to talk about are just some of the things that I don't like. I would probably say that the throw to go from 70 to 200 is a little bit longer. I remember when I used the EF version, you used to just be able to turn that bad boy like very little, and that thing would go from 70 to 200 very quickly. For this one, it is probably like an extra quarter of a turn. I didn't really, I don't want to say I didn't have any issues with it at the conference. I will say that I did notice that there was a longer throw to get from 70 to 200 or a little bit further. So that would be something. And then also, just like the focus ring is not as smooth as I would like. Maybe over time it loosens up and it gets a little bit more smoother. But so far that lens the focus ring is not very smooth. And I would expect for a $3,000 lens that this lens would be, you just don't run into those type of things. Like I use the 18 to 35 Sigma art lens, and that lens was $650 when I bought it. It's probably on sale now, but that focus ring on that lens that I'm using right now, it's super smooth. I've never had any issues. Again, you're going from 18 to 35. That's roughly around the same amount of focal lengths and jumps that you would with a 70-200. For a $3,000 lens compared to a $650, $700 lens, I should have a much smoother focus ring, and that's probably the only thing that I didn't like. I don't want to always have to use autofocus, but I'm expecting for this to loosen up over time, and if not, that's probably one of the only things that I don't like. So anyways, I don't want to make this too long. I already feel like I'm going on and on about this lens. If you're a person who is in the market or been questioning or thinking about getting this lens, hopefully I've showed some example photos or just footage throughout this video, and hopefully that encourages you to either buy, try, rent, don't buy, whatever it is that makes and helps your filmmaking and photography process, creative process better. My name is David Wilson, and as always, start your day with giving, because way too many people take. SWNUP.